Good afternoon. It is Sunday, October 20th, 2024. This is Rob Sin at CEO Technician on X. This is Goldfinger Capital on YouTube. We're talking medical psychedelics, Bright Minds Biosciences, new hot stock that had an incredible mind-blowing move last week. And I'm going to offer some of my analysis and ideas on this today. If you like this video, if you find value in my content, please hit the like and subscribe button and share it on social media. Share it with your friends. I greatly appreciate that. That encourages me to keep creating content, and it gets us good interview guests on the channel. So drug is the symbol on the Nasdaq. It's also listed on the CSE in Canada. This was sort of a mind-blowing move last week. What the hell happened with Bright Minds Biosciences? At first, I just thought this was like a short squeeze, and I wasn't sure of the level of substance behind this move. But I did some digging, and obviously I actually traded a couple of medical psychedelic stocks on Thursday and Friday just because they were beginning to move up in sympathy with this move in Bright Minds Biosciences. But what happened here? This is a little Vancouver-based biopharma company that had been going nowhere for a long time. If you zoom back, you look at the chart, came public in 2021. And like many in the medical psychedelic space and the biotech space, had a very tough 2022 and 2023 as the Fed was raising interest rates, and the air came out of the biotech and biopharma sector, sort of like the COVID hangover post 2021 hit all these stocks. And quite frankly, the medical psychedelic space, too many companies, too early stage went public in 2021, and they paid the price for that through a pretty nasty bear market period. So the bear market was still in effect just a couple weeks ago for Bright Minds, trading at a $5 million market cap, and then all of a sudden it shot out of a cannon and went from $1, $2 a share to, I don't know, $79 a share on the Nasdaq. That's insane, right? It was a 6,000% move in a few days, right? So what happened, and why is a $5 million company suddenly worth over $200 million, right? That's an important question. Well, it really has to do with this Longboard Pharmaceuticals. You can see Longboard was trading just under $40 a share, and then it jumped up to $59.21 last week. So they received an all-cash $2.6 billion buyout offer from Lundbeck. And why did Lundbeck want to pay $2.6 billion for Longboard Pharma? Well, because Longboard Pharma has a clinical stage pipeline of these product candidates and drug candidates. I'm not going to even try to say this name, but they are specifically targeting the 5-HT2C receptors in the brain. These serotonin, receptors. That there's 5-HT2A, 5-HT2B, 5-HT2C, and they all affect different things. 2A is more like mood, anxiety levels, like emotional state. And 2C is more like appetite. So they're testing some of these candidates for obesity and seizures, right? So people that have seizures. So specifically, Longboard has a global phase 3 trial testing this product candidate for the treatment of seizures associated with this specific syndrome, right? So this is an area of high unmet, medical need, right? So this is kind of obscure, not a huge patient population, but a high unmet need. And so that's why Lundbeck acquired Longboard for $2.6 billion. The fact they have a phase 3 candidate means that there's going to be a much higher price tag, and that's how you get the $2.6 billion. But all of a sudden, well, Bright Minds is worth a lot more than its cash value. It was previously trading basically at its cash value. Some of these stocks even trade under their cash value because the market just assumes that they're going to burn through their money. So why should we value them at cash or above cash if they're just going to spend it on R&D and corporate overhead, right? So the acquisition of Longboard validates the mechanism of 5-HT2C superagonism in the minds of investors, right? So all of a sudden, a lot of the other biopharma, biotech companies that are working on 5-HT2C candidates are worth a lot more, right? Bright Minds, you could say it was unfairly valued at cash previously, is now worth a couple $100 million all of a sudden, just out of the blue, right? And I think the same dynamic could exist in the 2A space, so the 5-HT2A space, where there's a lot of companies currently valued at cash, some under cash, their technology is getting zero value, their IP is getting zero value. And once there's that first transaction, call it psychedelic or what have you, but basically a big pharma comes in and pays a multi-billion-dollar price tag for one of these players, you could see the whole 2A space lift, right? What is the 5-HT2A space? Well, basically, the 2A receptor in the brain is the target of classical psychedelics like psilocybin, like DMT, like lysergic acid, right? So the activation of this receptor in the brain leads to altered perception, different emotional states, and levels of consciousness, right? That explains its central role in psychedelic experiences, right? But basically, the 2A receptor modulates the way we feel, our level of anxiety. Are we depressed, right? That's why this is so at the forefront of the treatment of PTSD, anxiety, and depression, right? So psychedelics that act on the 5-HT2A receptors have shown promise in clinical trials, and that's why I have Cybin up here later. But let's talk more about drug. Is drug a pump and dump? I don't think so. I don't think the company did anything to try to incite that move. I think it just happened. It was organic. Certainly, probably some of this move was due to a short squeeze. It started moving so crazy that I'm sure some algorithms or some smart traders were like, well, this is overvalued at $20. I'm going to short it. Then it went to 30, then it went to 35, and it creates a positive feedback loop as the shorts are forced to cover at higher and higher prices. Eventually it gets to the point where even the CEO starts selling, and then the company launches a $35 million financing, right? And it starts to come back down to earth. And that's the phase where we're at now. The short squeeze has played out. I think a lot of people lost a lot of money trying to short this thing. A lot of people made a lot of money chasing it, buying it on the way up. But now the CEO is selling $9 or $10 million in stock on the open market. He filed that last week. And then the company's got an open financing at $21.70 a share. So do you really want to, when the CEO is selling his stock that he bought at $1.30 at much higher prices, and then the company is selling you more shares at half of what the market's trading at, do you really want to go against that? No, I don't think so, right? So the market got ahead of itself. It's going to come back down to earth, but I think that Bright Minds is a real biopharma play, and once it comes back down closer to that financing level, it could set up again for a great long trade, okay? But right now, I would not advise anybody to chase it at $47.21 a share, okay? And just looking through some of the news that came out. So after the market closed on October 15th, when it had that enormous leap, the company said, we're not aware of any material changes, right, that would account for the recent increase in market activity. Well, the change was happened to a different company, and the $2.6 billion acquisition of Longboard changed investors' perception of what Bright Minds technology, their IP portfolio is worth, right? And then the company put out the news the next morning on their BMB201 preclinical compound, preclinical, and people thought, oh, this is the news they were holding back on. No, this is preclinical. This is a study in rats. They published this the week before when they attended a conference, and basically, it's promising preclinical work, but one of the conclusions is they will have to assess the mechanism, the potential of this in clinical trials to assess its effect in humans, right? So just because it works pretty well in rats, that's promising doesn't mean it's going to work or that it's safe in humans, right? So no, they weren't holding back any, material news. They just wanted to use the increased attention on the company to do a little advertising, like, hey, we've got this, 5-HT2C compound that we're working on in preclinical, and we're going to file an IND on it in the near future. Then they announced the financing for $35 million at $21.70 a share. So the company's telling you, we're willing to trade our shares for cash at $21.70. I'd pay attention to them, right? And just the presentation is pretty clean. There's not a whole lot here, but they have one candidate that is ready for phase 2 trial, also 2C, 5-HT2C, for epileptic seizures, right? Just like Longboard. That's why the market bid this up. The similarities, the parallels to Longboard, right? So it wasn't a pump and dump. This was a real move. It just got a little carried away with itself, I think. I think the market bid this up too high. But what's interesting is now, what about the 2A space, right? What about the 5-HT2A space and anxiety and, depression, right? So that's what I come to Cybin. Cybin is a company I followed for a few years. I was kind of down on them for most of this year because, number one, they let their share structure get way too bloated. They did a really dilutive financing earlier in the year. Let's see if we can pull up the chart, zoom it out a bit. And yeah, basically, was it? I think it was here. It was the end of 2023, actually. But anyway, you can see the performance, right? Every major spike in this stock has been sold into, and it's continued to trend lower. So I've been kind of down on it, but they've continued to advance their pipeline of product candidates. They're about to move CYB003 into phase 3 for MDD, and they're about to do a top line, readout for CYB004 for anxiety. So you can see that the next several months, the end of this year and early next year, is going to be a lot of important, potentially market-moving data as we get the readout from phase 2 for CYB004, and also the 12-month data for phase 2 from CYB003 in MDD, right? So these are the two big indications in the mental health space, GAD and MDD. Cybin is working on both of them and has 2 drug candidates pretty advanced in both indications. And we're going to get a lot of data over the next several months, right? So this is an impactful time for the company, and the stock just began to start moving up. I think this has all the makings of a major bottom put in place in September, They did the share consolidation. They bit the bullet. They took the tough medicine to deal with their problems, and now, well, the share structure is a lot cleaner, a lot tighter. There was some open market buying by some of the insiders earlier in the year. You can see it right here. This was back in June. Yeah. And you have to adjust all these share prices for the share consolidation, but basically they were buying the stock on a split adjusted basis around $10 a share. And I mean, it was $10 a share at the beginning of last week. It closed last week at 11.41. It had a big move last week, but I feel like these stocks are moving off of such a major bottom, and they're just beginning to leave this multi-year bear market that they've been in, and they're just beginning to start a new uptrend, a new markup phase. And this is the sector. So this is like an index for the psychedelic. Publicly traded psychedelic sector. And you can see, I mean, that this has been a very brutal bear market in 2022 into 2023, and then just sort of bouncing along the bottom for the last year. These stocks have been bouncing along the bottom for a while now, and they're just beginning to move up, Both MindMed and Cybin have significant cash balances. They don't need to finance anytime soon. Both of them have an impactful series of news in the pipeline over the coming months. And I chose these two just because they're sort of like the brand name. They're a little bit bigger market cap. They're further advanced than a lot of the other more speculative ones in the space and the 5-HT2A space. But I plan to also highlight a few other ones over the next week or so. But we're starting with Cybin and MindMed and explaining what the hell happened with Bright Minds Biosciences last week. So that was the purpose of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I am long Cybin right now. These have both been really tough, tricky stocks to trade. I've had winners, I've had losers. These are volatile stocks. You can see how volatile they are. Cybin got cut in half in 2 months, and then it's rallied about 75% in 1 month, right? So if you plan to trade these, if you want to speculate in these, just understand that these are very volatile. They can move sharply either up or down in a very short period of time. So please do your own due diligence and do not risk more than you can afford to lose. Thanks for watching and have a powerful trading week.